Hi friend, welcome back to another installation of our baking roundups. I can't believe May has already come and gone and we're in June now. Like, how did that happen? I don't really understand it, but I'm so happy that you all are here. If you are new to this channel or you've never seen a baking roundup video before, I just go through every single thing I baked in the month of May and then review them and rate them 1 through 10, 1 through 5, however many bakes I was able to do that month, and tell you why and give you some points or tips on how you can improve that recipe or ways that you can get the perfect bake out of those recipes. So May was a quiet one. I'm gonna be honest with y'all, just like last month, there was a lot of moving parts going on. I got 2 new jobs, so I was more than preoccupied than I haven't been in previous months. I wasn't able to do as many discard recipes as I would like, which I'm disappointed about because discard recipes are actually my favorite thing to make. I used a lot of just actual regular baking recipes, and I think that taking a little break from discard was just kind of what I needed to get me excited to get back into discard recipes. I felt like I was kind of forcing myself to find things because I knew that you all love watching them just as much as I love baking them, but I was finding things I wasn't really excited about, and now taking this little unintentional break from discard recipes, I'm excited to jump back into them. You are here so we can talk about all the things that happened in May. So like I said, I got 2 new jobs, so the actual baking situation wasn't as fruitful, let's say, as previous months. I did bake 4 things, so 1 a week if we're thinking about it, and I think that's actually pretty good considering the amount of time I don't have anymore. So I have 3 of the best and then 1 that could do better, but let's get into the best. So if you recall, I think it was in March or maybe February where I tried making discard cinnamon rolls, and the recipe that I followed was very well laid out. There was no complaints on my end. I just simply couldn't get it to work properly. I don't know if it was the butter or the salt that I was using. I've tried it about 3 times now on this specific recipe and I just can't hack it. I don't know what it is. So all of that is to say that I found an amazing cinnamon roll recipe, and I know cinnamon rolls is one of those things that everyone can make or loves to make, and there's thousands of recipes out there, but the one I found was really easy to follow. There was a video as well. I'm more of like a visual / tactile learner, so being able to read and follow those directions as well as watch them to make sure that, you know, the dough is looking how it should be, the consistency of the batter or the dough is looking how it should be, you know what I mean? Like, just double checking myself really allowed for me to ensure that everything was going to plan. And so I think that's what definitely helped me, you know, along the way, and made sure that I was gonna end up with the best cinnamon rolls that I've made. I had 1, my husband had 1 as well. It makes a total of about 11 depending on how you cut them. 12 if you're gonna count the little bits at the end, you can make 12, but you know, you want that ooey gooey cinnamon swirl in between, and you don't really get that out of the end bits, but that's the one that Brian ate and he said it was really good on its own. But I had one of the like centerpieces, and dude, when I tell you, it was so stinking good. Like, I'm not even joking. You can see on the screen just how like ooey and gooey it is. It's so stinking good. Now, if you recall from my other video making cinnamon rolls as well, we used a cream cheese frosting, just like we used a cream cheese frosting here, and I can't hack that. You've seen the video of me making the cinnamon rolls with the chunky like cream cheese falling out, trying to make it like aesthetic, but it just looks like chunky throw up or like cottage cheese. Yeah, that still happened. So working on it, definitely gonna get better, try to get better, figure out what is going wrong or going awry that I'm missing when I'm mixing it all together. Like, maybe my mixer isn't the key to success. Maybe me mixing it myself or using a hand mixer might be better, because as we know, my KitchenAid is an amazing product, but I think he's seen better days, if I'm honest, and he can't knead dough, he overheats, and he's good for like quick mixes, but he's not a long-term dude. And you know what, honestly, I respect that, because I tried long-term running once, and I think that's for other people. But I don't know what the answer is. I'm gonna keep digging, keep finding out, but I did get an amazing vanilla frosting recipe, so I might try the cinnamon rolls again whenever I have friends or family in town, and then try it with that vanilla frosting that I've been able to hack, and then see kind of how that goes. If not, I'm just gonna keep experimenting to find the perfect consistency for the cream cheese. But when I tell you, it was doughy with a nice golden hint that you know, always want in a bake, but it wasn't hard. It was that perfect mixture of baked on the outside, gooey on the inside that you would want for like chocolate chip cookies. It was like that, and it stayed warm for a really long time. I didn't need to microwave anything for, I don't know, probably a few hours. Like, it stayed really, really warm. So I would say you're able to definitely enjoy it with your family or your loved ones, significant other, or coworkers. If you want to make it for work one day, you can bring it on your commute and then take it into work, and they could probably last till lunchtime. So I would highly recommend that. That is my best bake of May. Moving on to my second, Reese's Cup cookies, or Reese's Pieces cookies. Now, I know that sounds interesting, but hear me out. So I got an order for peanut butter cookies, and they said the peanut buttery the better. And I said, do you like Reese's? Because that's just instantly, what would be better than peanut butter? Chocolate with peanut butter. So I was like, do you like Reese's? And they're like, yeah. So I literally was like, there's gotta be a recipe for this. And Hershey's themselves makes Reese's Pieces, Reese's Cups, Reese's style of peanut butter cookies. So I followed that recipe. It is beginner level. And when I say beginner, like, everything's in a bowl mixed together. Nothing needs to be separated out. You don't have to, you know, make egg whites or use egg yolks exclusively. Like, there's no sifting, there's no nothing. Like, it's basic baking, and I love it. It is now my go-to. I do substitute the Reese's peanut butter because I couldn't find it with regular peanut butter. That worked perfectly fine, as well as using the baking chips, the Reese's peanut butter baking chips, instead of, I believe it says use the Reese's Pieces in that time. And then I'll just add 3 little, you know, of the tricolor Reese's Pieces on top. So then you get the peanut butter, you get the chocolate, you get the Reese's Pieces, and then you get a little bit extra peanut butter if that's your thing. If you are allergic to peanut butter, I would not recommend, but if you love just like a nice and warm, kind of like grandma's peanut butter cookies, but better, then I would highly recommend this. And like I said, it is 1 bowl and done. You scoop it out or spoon out the mixture, put it in the oven at 350, which is like the basic temperature. That doesn't take super long for your oven to heat up to. And in, I think, 15 minutes, you've got delicious, and I really truly mean delicious cookies. I think with that specific recipe, I made about 24, give or take. So you have more than enough to share with a friend, or space out throughout the week, or if you just feel like it, eating it all in one sitting. They are that good, and I promise they're not too much peanut butter. I was really worried that it would be kind of like sticky. You know how peanut butter can get kind of goopy. It's not at all. Something about it all just works. I don't know how else to explain it. There's not too much peanut butter, but enough to where if you were having a peanut butter craving, it would absolutely fix that craving with just one. I brought it to my friends, they loved it, and my husband loves it, and his friends love it. Like, it is now one of my tried and true because it's so quick, and it's one of those recipes that if you make it more than once, like, it's in your mind. That's how little thought process it takes. And that's not to say that it's a bad recipe or, you know, to talk down about the recipe, but it's just that good of a recipe that it's now a staple. Like, unfortunately, it's just a staple. And also, speaking of staples, you've heard me talk about these cupcakes like I am the biggest spokesperson of them. And honestly, at this point, I am, because the sourdough, still another name, sourdough discard espresso cupcakes, I think I'm gonna rename them so I don't have to keep saying that every time. But the sourdough discard espresso cupcakes are also a fan favorite, and I am their biggest fan. All of that is to say that for the third month in a row, I think I made these back in March. So for the third month in a row, this is in my top 5. And when I tell you, it is so rich, so decadent, so delicious. I'm not even trying to be dramatic. I actually eat the frosting by the spoonful. That's how disgusting this is. Like, it is the best thing I have ever put together, and it's not something I would have ever thought. Like, I never look at espresso and go, man, that would be great with chocolate. And I'm sure there's baristas out there and professional bakers who are watching this and going, well, duh, those two always go together. But for me, it was not something that was on my radar, and that's what I love about doing these, knowing that I can talk about it with y'all later and kind of go over the things that could be better, could be worse, or how it went. I'm more confident into going into these recipes knowing that I have this opportunity to talk with y'all, and it's honestly my favorite thing, and I'm so glad that you all are here. But truly and honestly, like, this is what gets me out of my comfort zone, along with my friend asking me to do things, because she's really good at that. But it helps me get out of my comfort zone and try these things that I never think about. Like, that flavor profile doesn't sound normal to me, but when I put them together, it is literally the best thing. I did one video for them, and then I had 2 events after that, and then I had an order for them. So these are something that I'm cranking out regularly at this point, and I've never once had them go awry. I've never looked at the batter and said, oh, this doesn't look right. Like, there's not a lot of intricacy when making this recipe, but there are obviously steps that you need to follow, and it's important and imperative that you do follow those steps. But it's not one of those recipes that if you don't sift the flour in a separate bowl, the world's gonna end. Like, that's not the case at all. This is very beginner friendly. You just need to make sure that you're aware and you're keeping track of what's going on. So it is a more inclusive recipe as opposed to the Reese's peanut butter or the Reese's Pieces cookies, but it's still beginner friendly enough to where I am confident that you'll be able to follow it. It does require a KitchenAid mixer when you're making the frosting, but if you have a hand mixer, you're totally fine. I promise you, this guy, my KitchenAid mixer, if he can do it, anyone can do it. You know what I mean? And it just is one of those like feel-good recipes that, like, you know, you've put so much work into it. And by so much work, I mean like maybe 2 hours. You put so much work into it that you're excited to share it, and you're able to like just be like, oh, I made this. And you can be proud of something that you've put together. And that's not to say that I'm not proud of the cinnamon rolls. Cinnamon rolls took 24 hours to make, so obviously I'm gonna be a little bit prouder of those. But it's just one of those like simple things that people recognize and really hype you up about, but you know deep inside that like you didn't put that much effort into it, but you've created something that people love. And I don't know, that's the number one thing I love about baking, is just knowing that I was able to create something for someone that makes them happy, you know? And this is one of those things that I promise you, coffee lovers, non-coffee lovers, because that's me, will love, they'll gravitate towards. Now, the order that I did, her mom loves coffee and she loved them. And then the daughter also likes coffee, but she's not like super like, I need to have coffee ice cream with every meal type of coffee lover, you know what I mean? And she loved them. And I'm the type who, I will have a decaf if I'm hanging out with my friends, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to get Starbucks every morning, coffee lover. Does that make sense? So it definitely fits a broad spectrum. Whereas like something like carrot cake, which is my favorite cake, isn't gonna be everyone's fan favorite. So it's one of those recipes that can be scalable to any audience, and you don't have to worry about like it being left untouched, because I promise you it'll all get eaten. As opposed to something as obscure as like pistachio ice cream. Like, that is not a fan favorite. I know people are diehard pistachio fans, and I respect you and I love you for that. But for me, that would sit on the counter. But these cupcakes, when I tell you, they are something that you need to try. And if you do, please leave them in the comments. Let me know how it went for you. If you try any of these, please leave a comment and let me know how you got on with them. I would love to hear. And you can actually follow me on Instagram. It is happily_homegrown with an _. Send me a DM. Let me know that you've tried these and how they went for you. If you found any, special tips or things that you think might be important for future bakes or just for everyone to know, please send them to me. I'd love to hear feedback. I'd love to talk to y'all a little more one-on-one. And I just think that would be so much fun, truly. I just love talking to people, and I love y'all. So getting to talk to you would be even sweeter. But moving in to the worst. So those are the top 3 that I would recommend you try. Now we're gonna move into the worst. I also had an order for chocolate chip cookies, and I have a tried and true recipe. And by tried and true, I mean I made it one singular time correctly. And if something's for an order, I want it to be the best. And you would think that would mean that I would use the recipe that I've already made before, but that's not the truth. I was so nervous that it would go poorly again because there's so many specific things that could go wrong in this chocolate chip recipe that I was like, I need a more straightforward, I need something like the Reese's Pieces recipe to get me through. And so I found one that was highly rated. That's literally all I do. If you're ever looking for a recipe and you're new to baking, or you're just looking for something in specific, literally type it into Google, obviously, but you'll get more suggested recipes listed at the top. And I literally just look at the star rating and then how many there are, because, if you have 1 5-star, probably not as good as the 4.5 stars with 500 reviews, So I'll just literally look for the highest rated one and then I'll use that. And so I did with this recipe, and I don't think that the recipe's bad. I don't think that there's anything wrong with it. I just think, again, it was not something I tried, number 1. And number 2, maybe I wasn't using the same type of chocolate chips as they were, or maybe I didn't have this exact brand of brown sugar that they were using, or granulated sugar, and things just didn't turn out how they should. That's not to say that the cookies weren't good. They just didn't look like chocolate chip cookies. If anything, imagine an oatmeal raisin cookie where it's kind of short, or it's kind of small and then peaked at the top, or even coconut cookies, right? They're just a little bit of a peak versus the nice flat gooey chocolate chip cookies that you would want when you have a craving for chocolate chip cookies. That's the kind of end result I was looking for, but I didn't get, and that's totally fine. I did follow the recipe in its entirety. I didn't skip anything. Going back to ingredients, I believe I had everything but the chocolate chips, but it was also said that it could be interchangeable. So I used semi-sweet chocolate chips and they used cut up chocolate bar, so it wasn't anything like they needed butter and I used margarine or something. It wasn't anything that wasn't interchangeable that I did in this recipe. It just didn't turn out as well as I had hoped. They were still good. It's not to say that they weren't good. I will link them below. I truly just think it could be a number of things. And if you do try out the recipe, let somebody know how it goes for you. My cookies didn't look kind of like the end result. I got a lot more. I think I literally got 40 cookies out of this recipe, and I just feel like that's an absurd amount. I didn't double it or anything, so I just used it as it was presented, and I just feel like maybe I didn't make the cookies big enough, or I didn't use a heaping tablespoon for the cookie scoop. Maybe I should have. They didn't spread, they stayed the same size, and she said that was gonna happen, but maybe, I don't know. This is one of the things where it could be a number of things, and I can't really trace it back to one specific thing that could have gone wrong. I did follow it to a T, and it just didn't turn out the way that I was hoping. But if that's your thing, if you love more a crunchy cookie and a little bit thicker height-wise of a cookie, then I think this is totally perfect for you, and I think you would really enjoy it. I just imagine a larger, cooked around the edges type of cookie that when you broke it apart, you could see the sugar and, the flour intermingled beautifully with the chocolate chips. That's just what I imagine. And when I broke these apart, because I didn't need all 40, I saved some. when I broke it apart, it was just like batter, like a lot of batter and a lot of chocolate chips. And that's not to say that's bad. I ate one and it was good. The flavor profile was really good. It just didn't look like the homemade chocolate chip cookies that your grandma would make. And that was kind of the vibe that I was going for. It was more like local grocery store in a bag. Not even at the bakery, not even the nice ones at the bakery, like more like just like you can find them in the Chips Ahoy bag type of thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. I know people love those, but that's kind of what it was giving. And that wasn't the vibe I was going for. So I think for me, this is on the worst because I wanted a different end result in terms of, you know, scalability of the recipe. You could definitely double it, and you could make a lot of cookies for a larger party if you were having a children's party or something like that. So this is definitely something that could be used for something in a larger quantity. But again, I wanted more of like that homemade secret recipe chocolate chip cookie type of vibe, and it was giving very much like store-bought, and it made me sad. The person who ordered still ate them, and like I said, they weren't bad at all. It's just a matter of it wasn't what I was hoping for. And I think that is why, for me, it is on the worst list. That is literally all I have for May. Now, I will let you in on a little secret. I let my sourdough starter die. And that is not to say that I'm a bad parent, okay? I let it die because I was going on vacation with my friends. You saw the top that I made. I made one for her too to match. And we were going on the weekend, and the week prior, it started to smell like vinegar, and I got really nervous. I Googled it. I was like, why does it smell like vinegar? And it just said it was hungry. So I fed it twice a day. I fed it more flour than I was feeding it water, and it just wasn't peaking the way it normally was. It didn't smell quite right, and I didn't feel comfortable making a bread with it or anything else. So I decided to let it die. But in good news, I have finally started the journey of finding all the answers that everyone has been asking me. So I will be trying multiple flours, multiple ways to create a starter, and that will be next week's video. So I'm so excited to experiment with y'all. This has been something that's a long time coming. I've had a lot of people ask me, can you make this type of starter? Can you do this? And I held my hands up. I didn't know the answer, but now I do. And I can't wait to show you all the results so you can experiment as well and start to make your own starters. If you haven't already, my first ever video was me creating a starter from scratch and the journey that took. Now we're gonna take it up to the next level and see what we can do there. But if you haven't watched that and you would like to create a starter, please go watch that video. It has a lot of good findings along the way. I did all of the worst things so you wouldn't have to, so you would know not to do those things moving forward. But I love the journey that it's been since I started that video and the journey that you all have come along with me on, and I can't wait to continue that. And I hope to see you all in next week's video.